Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Suzuka. We've had a bit of a technical problem with the mic, but all seems to be working now. And let me wish each and every one of you a good morning and a good afternoon, whichever part of Asia or Pacific you are from. And as we witness the cars motoring their ways around the Suzuka circuit with a 14-lap race 1 and a reverse grid 14-lap race 2. This is the final round or final race of the eSport working group organized championships. And right throughout the year we've had a whole host of racers on iRacing, on ACC, Race Room, and the final round being the GT Cup organized by the Ceylon Motorsports Club. Well, alongside me, you've got Rukshan Halpita here, who's expert in most of the esports stuff that we've been running in Sri Lanka, and we've invited him into race control to work with us on this one.
Good morning, Niroshan. Thank you for inviting me. This is Rukshan joining in all the way from the race control in Sri Lanka. This is the Asia Pacific eSport GT Cup race 2022, the final race happening for the season before we all go on Christmas holidays. And the race is happening here at Suzuka. It's a sunny morning, and we have 2 races for the day, and we have it's all 14 laps, and there are 6 nations participating, and we have 6 drivers from Sri Lanka, 2 drivers from India, and 2 from Australia, and 1 each from Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. Asia Pacific eSport GT Cup 2022 is brought to you by Ceylon Motorsports Club.
So we've got 14 drivers, Rukshan. We've got 14 drivers here, or 13 drivers here. The car of choice being Porsche today. I can see quite a few Porsches, and then there's a Lotus.
We saw
here.
some Toyotas as well, is it?
I saw some Toyotas as well, and we've got
There's an Acura.
That's the 86.
Yeah.
That's the GT86, and another Porsche. I think the Sri Lankan drivers are more with the Porsches. That's Ancient Pleb there. He's a good, brilliant driver who's to take part with us. And
flying or rather running the Indian flag colors on his Toyota.
Actually, that's Vedant.
Vedant Karpe.
That's Vedant Karpe. I'm sorry, I made a mistake on that one. But we've got Ancient Pleb. That's Aditya Ragwal. He was a brilliant driver. He take part with us in the India Sri Lanka Cup many years ago, and he used to beat the daylights out of all our Sri Lankan drivers in the day.
Probably would have had a very good touch, and seems to be a very talented driver.
You know, India were the pioneers of e-sport in this region.
Okay.
And they taught most of us on how to run e-sport events. They were a brilliant bunch, and they actually taught us, the Sri Lankans. And then, when we started during COVID, they were the first ones to have a championship with us. And this boy Aditya Ragwal, he was like the man to watch. Amazing driver.
Aditya Raghav goes under the Ancient Pleb, Ancient Pleb code name. And if I may run down on our drivers here, we have 13 drivers. Brian Pereira, Kevin Pereira, Mevan Pereira, all running today, the 3 brothers from Sri Lanka, and we have Seshan Gunasekara, Riaz Hafrat, Tamindra Viramarnakula, and we have Aditya Raghav and Vedant Karpe from India, Lee Kin Long from Hong Kong, Alvin Chu from Singapore, and we have Muhammad Iqbal bin Ahmed Suji, call sign ERD_Iqbal from joining us from Malaysia, and Connor Healy and Matthew Allen from Australia. 13 drivers in total, 2 races to go, and we are on the practice session.
So Rukshan, let me give you a bit of a rundown on some of these drivers. Alvin is the man in Singapore who organizes all the e-sport in Singapore.
Oh wow, okay.
He's like the man for esport.
Hands-on man for esports in
Hands
Singapore.
on to another level. He's running the ASN logo MSS on the side of the car there.
So he's running a McLaren?
He's running a McLaren, from what I see. Brilliant guy, absolutely enthusiastic to another level. You know, we welcome all these drivers to this final round. Qualifying is due to start in 5 minutes, from what I understand. And let's watch these guys and see. We've had 25 minutes of practice at the moment, and we wish all these drivers all the very best. And that's the Seshan Gunasekara, who's running the Porsche again.
He's running the Porsche GR3 spec, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. He's running the GR3. Alvin running the McLaren.
And that would be Vedanth Karpe in the pits now.
And he has that Vedu on his thing, so now we know. We can easily identifiable.
Yes.
Aditya is still in the pits, getting his car ready. That's Iqbal from Malaysia, and he's chosen the Corvette.
He's a Corvette, yes.
Corvette. It's a bulky car. It gets off the line really good. It's got a lot of top speed, but around the corners, this car is a bit of a handful to handle.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because Suzuka, especially down through the, we would see how it performs down through the S curves. There are a few S's there, and then of course quite a tight hairpin and the sport curve. So the car's handling characteristics matter quite a lot at Suzuka.
Look at this car.
That's an Alfa Romeo.
Is it?
That's an Alfa.
That's an Alfa. That's right, and that's being driven by
Range or Matthew Allen.
So it's very easy to identify this one because they're running the traditional green and yellow colours of Australia.
That's right.
Be it cricket, be it rugby.
The sporting colours of Australia, and quite simply but nicely done. So he will be running an Alfa Romeo.
Brilliant, and look, he's carrying the ASN logo on his car as well, Motorsport Australia. Brilliant drive by all these guys. The fastest person on the track has been Iqbal with a lap time of 1:58.082. That's a very decent time here. We've had drivers running a little quicker in our races as well. And there you see...
that would be Lee Kin Long in his yellow...
That's the Supra.
Toyota Supra.
The GT86. I'm telling you, the CMSC had a friendly race between Hong Kong and Sri Lanka, and I tell you, the Hong Kong boys just annihilated the Sri Lankan team.
I remember you were talking about this.
They were in a different league, the Hong Kong drivers. They're amazing. Look at the way he handles that car, beautifully around that corner there. And
powering through the corner and a little bit of oversteering, but manages to get a lovely exit out of that corner.
Yeah, and he had complete control of the car there. But the man of the hour still, that leads the pack, is Iqbal from what I see. And as we have Matthew, who's set the fastest time of 1:57.893. I think we've got about 3 minutes and a bit before qualifying commences. Sam, our race director of the day today, informing all the drivers on Discord that qualifying will begin shortly.
So we are now with Super Vedu, Vedanth Karpe.
This is Brian Pereira, one of our Sri Lankan drivers, who's currently very, very closely tied or very close to the championship. He's the current reigning champion of Sri Lanka for e-sport.
And a very committed driver, isn't he? Hiroshan, whether he lives in Sri Lanka or Australia, he makes it a point to...
and that's his brother, Kevin, who's also running today. But this young man, Seshan Gunasekara, leads the Sri Lankan championship, and he's only 13 or 12 years old. That's Seshan there in his car, Porsche. Thamindra Veerakumaranakuda also, he runs in Sri Lanka. Rukshan, you know that we've run different categories here.
That's right.
The Pro class and the M class.
M class.
And there's Thamindra having a bit of a moment. and Tamin running in the M class in Sri Lanka, and the others all taking part in the Pro. And there you see
that will be the ancient pleb that we talked about. Aditya Raghav. I have a bit of an off-track moment there in his Supra.
You can see the car carrying the Indian flag as well on the side. Beautiful car.
Pitch black car looks like a black stallion to me.
I haven't seen Connor Healy. Where is Connor? He's been in the pits from what I see. It's another Porsche, is it? Porsche. Yes, it looks like a Porsche. He's decided to go on a totally different color scheme there. Alex, that's Alvin there.
Alvin Chu.
Having a bit of a breather. The lap time has been dropped by the Malaysian driver, 1:57.660 Iqbal there.
So it's Iqbal who drives the Corvette.
That's right.
That's right. No. So that is Ranger Oz. To give you a bit of heads up on the Ranger Oz, that will be Matthew Allen. They all have their code names going.
Phil Falk sets a record at the first Mahagaskara Hill Climb. 1936, Mrs. Gordon Graham, the first female racer to compete in her Austin 65. 1959, Mrs. Monica Collier enters the racing circuit. And now it's the age of digital motorsports. The oldest motorsports club in Sri Lanka with notorious heritage of 87 years and a tune to shift times. Keep up dust spooling on dirt and quarter miles conquered. Ceylon Motorsports Club, the iconoclast ahead of its time.
And we have qualifying. That's it. Rukshan, we've got the drivers all bunched up a little bit. I'm wondering why they are bunched up. The drivers all bunched up there, and
so we have Seshan, Ranger Oz, that will be Matthew Allen from Australia. They are all running in a quite tight formation, as you quite rightly pointed out. Generally, in a qualifying situation, you would want to spread as much as possible, spread out, and buy your own time to put a nice flying lap. Maybe they are on the out lap.
Quite a bunch of drivers here who are keeping themselves together. I'm wondering whether this really works. And there's
Kevin decides to actually get ahead of the Hong Kong driver. That would be Lee King Long.
Yeah, they're all very close. Tamindra there and Iqbal. He's the boy to watch. I've been seeing the lap times.
Iqbal is the one who drives the purple Corvette.
Yep, you were right about the Corvette there. There's Alvin there in the McLaren, a very astute driver. He's passionate to another level. And Matthew will ride on board with Matthew, as he's going to be the first one across the start-finish line to start setting a lap time. Braking hard into the Casio triangle there, getting it slightly out there, but perfect line there. Okay, now we have him on the start-finish straight. Beautiful car, beautiful livery. What else they have done, Rukshan?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Representing the Australian sporting colours there.
As he starts at the first of the curves there.
Niroshan, I have one question for you now. He's driving this Alpha, and appears to me that it has quite a compact wheelbase. How would you think?
It's a nice car to drive on a twisty circuit like this.
That's right.
The short wheelbase really helps them to turn in. The rotation into corners can be done extremely easily. But again, I'm wondering, I mean, these cars are all running with a balance of performance.
Right.
So whether you run whatever car you run, end of the day, the game has equated the cars. So there's no real advantage from one to the other, but the handling characteristics of one to the other do change, and you got to choose the car of your choice.
According to the driver's driving style, I presume.
Each person's driving style changes from one to the other, and that really helps how you choose your car. And there you see the Indian colors on that car. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
That will be Vedant.
That's Vedant there. You can see his sponsors.
So Vedant Karpe taking his flying lap.
Aditya not too far behind his countryman in the GT86 as well.
A black Supra looks like a black stallion to me. Very well done with.
And you know, Rukshan, when you look at these drivers, they've sent the best of guys here. It'll be wonderful to see how they are going to perform at the end of this race.
So the local ASN is involved in lining them up.
Every country has to choose. The ASN chooses who they send.
Okay.
So they conduct a national championship or a national selection process, and they choose who they send. We open up the entries to the ASN. The ASN chooses who comes along, and that's how it all works.
All right. So this is not down to the drivers individually. It's the local sporting.
So the concept is this, that we have in Asia and around the world, we've created the regional concepts. So these regional championships, which are organized by different ASNs, the drivers are chosen from national championships. So the progression happens that you run national championship, and then you run the regional championship, and then you run the global championships like the Motorsport Games, which was held in Marseille about a month ago, and the Esport Olympics, which is going to be held in Singapore next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
So would we see any of these drivers participating in it?
You never know. I mean, these guys are going to be a part of the whole process.
That will be fantastic to see all these drivers participating in the Esport Olympics happening
in Singapore.
In 2023.
Yeah.
Now, there will be listeners and viewers who are joining for the first time on several references. So they might be wondering as to what do you call an ASN? Will you give a little bit of insight to what an ASN is, what the ASN stands for, and what does it do in a country level?
So basically, the ASN is the representative of the FIA in the country.
Okay.
So they are the governing body ideally for motorsport.
Okay.
So the National Sporting Authority is the ASN, and the FIA nominates a country, a club or a federation in a country, and they are the sole authority, and only one for a country.
Only one authority for the country, representatives from FIA, in order to look into all the aspects of motor racing.
All aspects of motorsport.
So there you go, viewers. While we were talking about a little bit of background, we have Lee Kin Long setting the fastest lap time there, 1:57.725, all the way from Hong Kong.
Ideally, Rukshan, a time in this circuit, in this setup, you should be looking at something like a 1:55.
1:55 in Suzuka.
Yeah. We've had when we ran the championships last year.
In a GR3 car or
GR3 car, the Mercedes has got a time of 1:55.
Okay, Niroshan, since you brought up Merc, why don't we see anyone here?
I don't know. There's a problem with the Merc. It is quite a guzzler.
Okay.
It's a quick car. It's a really quick car, and
but over the main full race distance, managing fuel will be quite a challenge.
And the tires, the degradation is quite heavy with the
because the car is heavier.
It's the front tires do go away from you after about 5 laps. So you are suffering.
1/3 down the race distance.
It's tough, but the Mercedes with a new set of tires and a low fuel load can get a 1:55.
Okay, so that actually triggers me to talk about the rules here now. Is it mandatory that all these drivers take a tire change, or can they have the option to run without a tire change?
No, it's up to you. If you can run without a pit stop, it's up to you. But we've done it in such a way that you can't do that.
All right. So the setup is such that you have to go for a pit stop in order to
ideally on the 6th and the 8th lap. 7th, 6th,
So that's
7th,
your
8th.
pit window.
That's your window. It depends how well you look after your tires and the fuel.
Oh, that's fantastic. So there you go, all the viewers. Must I remind you, we are on YouTube, CMSC race channel.
Can you see the gap between 1 and 2?
It's just 0.003 of a second. That's
3,000
thousandths of a second.
3,000s. I told you, the Hong Kong driver and the Malaysian driver, they are on the money here. We've
The
got
Hong Kong driver that Lee Kin Long driving a Supra,
and Iqbal.
and Iqbal closely following in on him in a Corvette.
Exactly.
Corvette is considered to be a little bulkier car, isn't it?
It is a bulkier car, but he must be a brilliant driver to keep this car. But again, Ruksham, this goes back to the concept that we are having a chat about before there was a Merc.
For the Mercedes, yes.
It was a bulky car, but with fresh tires, low fuel load, it was a winner. And
So I'm just starting to think now, where would you place the Porsche GR3 and also the Alfa Romeo GR3 that we see on this competition? Where would you think, compared to the Corvettes and the Supras, where would they slot them in?
I am not a soothsayer to tell you that one.
No, technically speaking.
No, but you can't. These drivers are so good. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not the car.
It's
Actually,
not the
based on
car.
the driver and the car. The marriage has to
Yeah.
work.
And see, in third
perfectly.
place, you've got the Australian driver.
Yeah, so that as we speak about the Alpha, we are just down there, clocking the third fastest, 312 of the race leader. He's just 0.3 seconds off the fastest lap time, so that makes him to cross over to 158. The Alpha is clocking at 158.
We've got about 2 minutes in the final bit of qualifying with the extended time in play, and it's any man's show today. But I think Iqbal and
that would be Lee Kin Long.
Lee Kin Long, that's right. So between Lee and Iqbal, they're trying to lock out the front row. The gap still remaining the same. And Seshan Gunasekar from Sri Lanka is in fourth place. And we've got.
He's half a second away from the fastest lap time, and that will be A.E. Konzio.
Yeah, it's Connor Healy.
That would be Connor Healy.
Yeah.
Driving a Porsche GR3 again in a different kind of
Livery.
colours there for Australia.
Brian Pereira there.
I see three Porsches driving the same.
And
livery could be the
Matthew has now clocked the fast time. See, as the time gets closer to the end, you're going to find these drivers really getting the faster times now. As the drivers get faster and faster, Matthew Allen has now set a fast time of 1:57.566.
We are running with Super Vedu, that's Vedant Karpe, probably on a cool down lap before he starts clocking another faster lap time.
Some of these guys have finished their qualifying now. Rukshan, they've come and finished. When the lights are blinking means they've finished their qualifying, the cars are coasting back.
All right, that's why we see that the cars are coasting back to the pits, and we will be with you shortly when it comes to the main race 1. It will be a 14-lap race. To remind you, we are at Suzuka today, a sunny morning happening here on the Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup, and that will be the final race for the season.
Keep it clean.
This is a race of
Drivers, your race will begin. Keep it clean, no bumping, no contact at all.
So it is a race happening between 6 nations: Sri Lanka, India, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore and Malaysia. We have 13 drivers in total, and each lap will consist of 14 laps. And to give you a bit of insight as to how the race format is run, we have 2 races, and from the first race, the 1 to 10 finishers, first place to 10 places, will start the race on a reverse grid.
So there you have it. The Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup at Suzuka. Cars under starters orders, 11 drivers, 2 are missing, and Iqbal leads the pack. Will be followed very closely by Matthew. The lights are on. Interesting to see exactly where they are. We get a close up with Matthew.
The race is on and Iqbal gets a beautiful launch off the line there.
Brilliant start there. We watch them into the first corner as the cars come through, all snaking their way up.
There goes Iqbal in his Corvette, nicely positioning his car up on the order. He clocked in the fastest lap time, and he started on pole, and he launched the car as sweetly as possible, now leading in the first lap itself. And we have Matthew Allen on the Ranger Oz closing him in point P2, and Brian Pereira is up to P3, Sishan Gunasekara, and we have cars that will be Lee Kin Long from Hong Kong, and A.E. Konzio, that is Connor Healy, Kevin Pereira also sporting the Australian flag, though he is actually competing for Sri Lanka in his Porsche, and Ancient Pleb, that would be Aditya Raghav in P8, and that's the back for you now.
Brilliant driving by all these guys. I'm trying to figure the drivers all there snaking around the circuit. They're pretty much following each other. They're all close to each other in the first bit of the race as they come through the 130R there, a flat out right-hander.
That's Connor Healy for you.
Yes, that is. And Kevin Pereira just making a little bit of a launch down there. And I wonder what happened to Ancient Pleb there. He's dropped all the way down to 8th place.
P8, yes.
These drivers all having a mechanism to give whatever.
Oh, there goes Ancient Pleb on Kevin Pereira.
Beautifully. Let's see, he's going to outbrake him into this first corner for sure.
Oh, beautifully done.
Kevin
there.
trying to go on the switchback is not really working there.
Because it looks like that Pleb having better traction, better grip over there. Aditya sweetly taking Kevin Pereira into P7 now.
Alvin Jung there, he's following up the back of the pack. I wonder whether he had a bit of a moment there. He's got quite a bit of a gap. Tamindra also there, but the lead pair, there you go.
There we have some competition.
Iqbal has overtaken Matthew at some point of time.
Iqbal was leading.
It was Iqbal leading?
Iqbal started from pole and he was leading throughout.
My bad.
And now Matthew Allen
chasing him.
Ranger Oz is his PSID for easy reference of the viewers. And Ranger Oz will be Matthew Allen all the way from Australia, actually charging in on Iqbal. Now we are riding with Brian Pereira has got a time penalty, and there you go. Cars 0627. That would be Lee.
That's
in
Lee.
long.
That's Lee. Watch Lee how he drives. He's going to give Sashan Gunasekar a hard time on this one.
He's slipstreamed Sashan
on the
his
inside.
outside. Tries to go around. He loses it. He loses the grip and
no, but he's there. That was a bit of an adventurous move to be on the outside of the one.
He wanted to take him on the outside, but Sishan parked his car in such a manner he could not help himself but
And I must say, Sashan is generally a very clean driver, so I don't think there was any argy-bargy there. Lovely to see all these cars very close to each other. We'll ride on board with Iqbal again. Iqbal placing that car the widest covered ever at Suzuka this weekend.
And if you see actually on the main stretch, every car is trying to slipstream each other. Therefore, it was train of cars passing the main start line.
These guys are so good that it's not easy for them to overtake each other. They're really on the money here.
currently the order is Iqbal, and then we have Alan Matthew, Brian Pereira, Seshan Gurusekara, Lee Kin Long,
Connor Healy. He's being now chased by Ancient Pleb as well.
and then Aditya Raghav, Ancient Pleb, and then Kevin Pereira. That's your top 8 for the day. Iqbal is setting the fastest lap time again. He's now down to 1:58.
That's almost a qualifying time.
And Connor Healy picks up a time penalty there. Brian Pereira is on the time penalty. And all these cars, it's a beautiful sight to watch that from the first class. On a stretch, you can see everybody.
You can see all these guys running on racing soft tires, and the fuel load, as you can see how much fuel they've consumed up to now, they are pretty much equal. So this Corvette as well as the Alfa Romeo, I think they're matching each other on fuel. They're matching each other on speed. There was a moment there. He had a look out there, but he didn't make it work. That was not going to work on the 130 or on the outside. It would be another one. He tries again, pressurizing Iqbal all the way. Beautiful driving by Matthew Allen there. Now again, you see, let's go down to Seshan Gurusekara. He's got the Hong Kong drive on his tail as well. Let's see, this is going to be interesting because Lee is going to slipstream Seshan, and Seshan is trying to get the slip of the toe of Brian. They're all trying to get the advantage of the other. They're all holding stead because it's not easy to overtake. If you are on a different strategy, you can't lose the tires as well. Rukshan?
The drivers now into the SS, and it was quite interesting to see as to how Matthew Allen plans himself and position himself to attack Iqbal, but it's such a sweet drive that Iqbal is enjoying today. It's very smooth out of corners, into the corner, braking at the right spot, and not giving it too much for his competitor Matthew Allen to get closer to him. Matthew Allen is just 0.3 of a second off Iqbal, and this is a beautiful race to watch between the truce between the two leaders. On P1 is Iqbal, and on P2 we have Matthew Allen in his Alpha, beautifully liveried with the Australian sporting colours.
I must
that
say,
will be Brian Pereira.
Rukshan, the three Sri Lankan cars have also decided to run the same identical livery of the cars.
Yeah, I see Brian,
Seshan,
and also Kevin. Three drivers running the same cars.
But I'm wondering, Lee is a brilliant driver. He could have or should have been up with the top 3. I'm wondering whether he's getting held back by the two Sri Lankan drivers.
See, they're now onto the main stretch again.
Oh, they are within stone's throw. They're not too far away from each other. The guys are all running in a train here.
Through the Casio triangle, gets onto the final curve and onto the main stretch now. So we'll be able to see where the cars are, whether the cars are spread out or whether they are in a train of cars. Now Iqbal, Matthew Allen, Brian, still P1, P2, P3 respectively, and Seshan and Lee Kin Long is having their fight. Oh, there's a beautiful attack by Lee Kin Long to Seshan. Seshan manages to control the car and still stay ahead of Lee Kin Long there, the Hong Kong driver. Cars 0627 is his PSID. And to remind you, this is the virtual racing world, ladies and gentlemen. The race is Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup 2022, the final race for the season before we break for Christmas, and it is brought to you by Ceylon Motorsports Club. And this is an international game happening between 6 nations: Sri Lanka, India, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore and Malaysia. Malaysia is leading at the moment.
Rukshan, while we were on that, there is a brilliant 4-car battle brewing, and you can see in the process, very very slowly, Ancient Pleb is catching the drivers here.
Aditya
Raghav
and Ancient Pleb.
He's catching them, and it will be now interesting where Lee will have to fight to get for position from both sides. He's trying to get the better of Seshan Gunasekara, but he's going to be having Aditya as well on his tail. And Aditya.
Now, we see that the two leaders, Iqbal and Matthew, is a little away from this pack, but this pack has become a 4-race car pack. The new man joining is the ancient pleb, Aditya Raghav from India. And there you go, the Supra. Breaks the slipstream, and Leakin Long tries his best to go around the outside. Seshan Gunasekara tries to block him. Still,
No, but it's a clean. It's a clean run there.
That's a clean run. He tries to stay ahead, and he manages to keep
What
his
happened
P3.
What happened to Brian Pereira? I think he spun out somewhere.
Oh, Seshan has become P3, and Brian Pereira
He's all the way down.
Oh dear, that is a very unfortunate situation. He was in P3, he was on P3, and now it has been taken by Seshan and Lee Kin Long from Hong Kong.
Now
He's
you can-
trying to challenge Seshan.
You can see something else. The tire wear on the Porsche and the tire wear on the GT86. You can see the difference amount of tire wear, and that's why the cars are snaking around.
So the GT6 seems to be having a bigger tire wear compared to the Porsches.
The tire wear is greater. The tire wear is certainly greater. And ancient pleb there is also now right on the tail of Connor. The Connor is going to have another car up on him. I'm wondering whether ancient pleb had a moment there with Brian Pereira, because ancient was almost on the tail of Lee. So Bima, the stewards will have to have a look at it to see if there was any kind of incident there. But
Yes, now he's back with Healy Connor. Aditya Raghav.
and Brian Pereira has dropped all the way down. I think he's gone into the pits as well, because he's got a fresh set of tires
That
as
is
well.
where he dropped down in the order. Brian Pereira rejoins the race at P9. And currently we have Iqbal, the Malaysian driver, still leading the race. We are into the pit window now, as we spoke at the start of the race. Lap 6 is in progress.
And that's what a pit stop will look like. We'll stay with Kevin Pereira as he goes into the pits. And I told you, Rukran, between lap 6 and lap 8.
Lap 8 is the pit window.
It's all about how you conserve your fuel and tires. You can see Seshan Gunasekara, he's gone on the long run. And he's going to, and then that gives him the option to fuel less and come out with a lighter fuel load, as well as have lighter fuel now.
Okay, so
That gives him the chance to catch. He's a 12-year-old boy, but he's got a man with
got a brilliant race plan and strategy.
Strategy is all that matters.
So that is ancient play. Was he also in the pits while we were focused on
Yes,
Kevin
he has.
Pereira?
Yes, he has.
He has got fresher tires, full tank of fuel to continue the
But
balance 8 laps of the race.
But I'm wondering whether this is possible, because some of them at the end of this race, or in the end of this race, will have to do a bit of a lift and coast.
Because it appears to be because they consumed
Exactly.
almost more than half a tank by the 6th lap.
So Brian has already gone through about a quarter tank.
Quarter tank gone
fuel.
already.
Yeah.
Yes. So this tank can do about 8 laps.
6, depending on how you drive. So you can see Iqbal. See, that's Seshan, who's got a little more than quarter tank. I'm sure he's going to come in.
He's yet to pit.
He's yet to pit, and he might come in on this lap, or maybe
on the lap 8th.
maybe the next lap. Both Iqbal and Seshan have conserved their fuel, and well, the tires of course have seen better days. But again, you see Iqbal, he is staying out. He's not going. He's not.
Iqbal?
Oh, he's coming in. He's coming in. Iqbal is coming in. Let's see what Seshan Gunasekara does. He might.
Whether he would respond
Yes,
the
he's
same
coming.
way, he's
Yes,
coming
he is
in as
coming
well.
in. But these two guys are going to come in with less fuel on board. They're going to take in less fuel.
I'm just assuming that Seshan is actually shadowing Iqbal's strategy
Exactly.
to stay with him in the race.
But
in
there
contention.
was a 5-second gap between the two when they came in. Let's see whether whether Seshan can get the head on Iqbal and reduce the gap. And let's see. This is a strategy that we'll have to see where does Iqbal come out in relation to Matthew Allen? That's going to be the important
So
one.
Matthew Allen is currently on P1.
One.
And he's leading the pack.
So he lost it. He lost it in the pitch to Iqbal. Lost it in the pitch to Matthew.
So yes. So Matthew Allen has also pitted.
Yes.
Currently leading. And can we say where Iqbal comes out?
Iqbal has come out third.
So he's out of the pits at P3. So that is a bit of a loss there during the pit stop.
No, yes and no. But you have a look at it this way. If you look at Matthew, the amount of fuel he's used in that 1.5 laps is almost, I mean, he's between half and 3/4.
That's right.
Whereas Iqbal is okay, he's also about the same.
He's also about the same.
He's
So
also about the
we
same.
have 6 laps remaining. We are on the 8th lap operating, and the current race leader is Matthew Allen, who was P2 prior to the pit stops, who decided to go for an undercut on Iqbal, and undercut has paid off very well for the Australian. He's on P1. Brian Pereira P2. Iqbal has rejoined the race on P3, and Sishan Gunasekara, who's shadowing Iqbal in his pit strategy, has come out at P4, and we have Connor Healy. Connor Healy on P5, Lee Kin Long on P6, the Hong Kong driver, Ancient Pleb, Aditya Raghav on P7, Kevin Pereira on P8, Vedant Karpe, Supervedu on P9, and he too has taken his pit stop. That will be Alvin Chu on P10, Thamindra Veeravarnakula on P11, and what has happened to the rest of the pack? So that is your new race leader, Matthew Allen, sporting the Australian sporting colour theme, beautifully liveried Alfa Romeo, now leading, and there he goes, Brian Pereira trying to overtake Iqbal on the outside, but not having much luck there. Iqbal manages to stay ahead.
Iqbal took
It was a brave move by Brian, though. Do you think Brian would have a chance to go at Iqbal?
No chance.
In about a lap or two, because he's just
what
half
happened,
a second away.
No, but what happened was that Brian pitted in very early.
Right.
About 2 laps before.
Can we go to Brian and see how his tires are like? Oh, that's yeah. The tires are okay to continue. We only have 5 more laps to go, and slightly over half a tank. And looking at Iqbal's tires, that's much fresher tires.
Yeah. I think between the two Sri Lankan drivers, Brian has managed to come up with a better strategy. Something happened to him somewhere down the line, but he's managed to come out a little bit of a winner.
Come out well at P3.
Given where he went into the pits.
So,
and I think he's got a 2.3 second
2.2 second time penalty there.
Maybe
he has picked up a penalty, maybe for going off track
or off circuit, or in this. Maybe there may have been contact. I think race director Sam will be asking the drivers to send whatever footage they want.
Yes.
They've got a window before the race, before
Look
race
at that,
starts for us
Niroshan.
to have a look.
Matthew Allen is recording the fastest lap time now. He's having clean air ahead of him and more power taken out of the engine. Oh, I saw there. That was
Beautiful drive by Matthew Allen.
Beautiful drive by Matthew Allen, but the corner was cut by Iqbal. He manages to cut the corner
You
there.
know, amazingly, in that corner, the last bit of the Casio, if you really time it right, you can cut the corner to a certain level and not get a penalty. Yeah.
So that is all being smart drivers there in e-racing.
We had an event before this with another bunch of foreign drivers, and they had practiced this thing to such a level that they knew exactly where they could cut the corner and not get the penalty. But they did
what extent?
No, I mean they did have 2 wheels within, but it was borderline. When we looked at it, it was borderline.
Okay.
Like in tennis, motorsport is the same. If you're on the line, it's in.
Exactly.
So
as long as you cover little white parts of the line,
Yeah.
you are
So
considered within track limits.
So it's a bit of a touch and go, and there you can see Brian still having a penalty of 2.2 seconds. This will be interesting. Now we've got Lee being chased by Aditya.
Yeah, Lee in his Toyota Supra, a yellow car,
I think it's the same car.
PS code, yeah. Probably the same car.
I
And
mean, I-
Aditya Raghav is closing in on
And if you
the
look at
other Supra.
if you look at the two cars, they're identical with fuel, identical with the tyre wear,
Oh,
and that'll be interesting. They're going to fight this battle all the way to the flag.
so it's the better driver who would take the other one.
Yep.
However, how easy do you think now Supras are they all-wheel drive cars or rear-wheel?
These are all rear-wheel drive cars.
All rear-wheel drive cars. So there's not a
G-
single all-wheel drive car on this track.
GT3s are all rear-wheel drive. The GT4s are the four-wheel drive cars.
Okay, GR4s
The
maybe the four-wheel, yeah.
the GR4s are the cars with the other option. But realistically, look at him. He's
That's a beautiful move.
That was so
But
close.
unfortunately, Aditya could not make it stick.
I know, it was so good.
He
but-
pulled right across.
He's gonna go right on his tail now. He's gonna slipstream this guy, get the toe.
Unfortunately, Aditya lost his there,
Yeah.
and he has
Lost the momentum a
created
bit.
a more gap.
Sashan Gunasekara seems to be catching Brian Pereira. He's had a gap of 6.5 seconds. He's dropped it down to 3.5, and Brian Pereira still has a 2.2 second gap. The penalty
3.2. Sorry,
2
yeah,
point-
the 2.2 seconds.
and in this game, Rukshan,
it gets added at the end of the race.
yes, if you don't clear the 2.2, the
Then
game
he's going to lose the position.
no, he gets a 3-second penalty. If you bring it down to 1.9, it will be 2 seconds.
So how would the drivers?
They know it.
No, how would the drivers do it?
You have to lift.
Oh,
You have to lift. You can
that's a
certainly
slow down penalty.
Yeah.
So he need to lift and manage.
and coast through that last bit. So he's going to do this in the last bit because that's the time his fuel is going to run out as well. So practically he'll have to lift and coast anyways.
So technically, the drivers have to take the penalty and, or rather, obey the order before they take the checkered flag.
That's right.
good enough.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so there you have Iqbal's now slowly closing in on Matthew. This is not going to happen immediately, but they've got a 3
Yeah,
laps
he's just
here.
1 second away from the race leader now, and Matthew Vallon is managing the race very well.
In an ideal world, he'll be within what they call the DRS zone.
Yes, in F1, DR is now he's.
No, but you know that in certain e-sport games,
Do you provide the DRS?
in a race room and iRacing, you get a bit of a...
That's for F1s, I guess.
No, even in GTs.
So GTs also have a.
Well, there are.
there's
There's
a flap by the rear wheel.
I'm not too sure whether it's a flap, but I've heard on the commentary them saying that he's within DRS.
Oh, they must be referring to F1 because I have never seen a GT2 car with a.
I'm not sure, but
flap
having
being
said
open.
having said that, he's closed it down to 0.7.
Now,
And,
Iqbal
and
is
Brian
ready
Pereira,
to attack.
Brian Pereira is still just about a 3 and a bit there. So you see Sashan slowly catching him as well. Let's see when the car. Lee has. He looks. He doesn't make it.
Aditya
But
takes a
Aditya-
look on the inside, goes to the outside, but
Aditya has to do something really fast because he's got a 2.3.
and these two drivers are down to the SS now.
Yeah, but he's got a 2.3 second penalty. He needs to lose that and overtake car because otherwise, what happened will be that the guy behind him.
And the Connor Healy is joining in the party of.
And if Connor
Aditya.
Healy is within 2 seconds, he's going to get the place
Because of the penalty.
because of the penalty. I think
So drivers have to be mindful of.
Connor has a penalty as well, so he's got to serve 1.2 as well.
So drivers have to be extremely vigilant and have the best of the situation and awareness because no one is there to communicate through their headphones.
No one is there.
And he has to basically manage for the penalties and manage it
But
well
there are some drivers who do care, who have
Race aid?
Race aid, yes. They have.
Is it an electronic race aid or a manual?
No.
A man
They
telling
have
you.
somebody telling them do this and do that.
So technically similar to a racing GTA in an F1 situation.
They do. They've got somebody either on a Discord channel with them or somewhere down the line. They're telling them try this strategy.
So that's fantastic. So we have the lap 12.
Because the drivers can only see what they can see, whereas through the commentary, the third party could actually watch what's happening outside.
Okay, that's where they manage it. Okay, so that's Iqbal always cutting this corner, and
Surviving.
Matthew has managed to pull the gap to 1 second.
Yeah, Matthew has managed to go a little bit there.
So it appears that Matthew does it well in the last sector, the sector 3.
You're right.
Matthew is faster than Iqbal. And Iqbal is catching up on sector 1. See, already the gap is down to less than 1 second. So Iqbal is doing something different to Matthew in sector 1. Or it's in the straights.
The Corvette has a lot more straight line speed than
That's where he gains. Again, the gap is again back to 1 second. So
That's
Matthew
because-
is doing something to stay away from Iqbal, knowing the power
It's a big
that the
car.
Corvette can deliver.
No, it's a big car, and with the SRs and the amount of tire wear, it's a bit difficult.
SSI in 6.2. So we are down to 6.2. I would like to also take.
Seshan Gunasekara has got within 1.7 seconds. He's all there. He's almost there to
Clinch
challenge.
that final podium position.
He is there. He's there to get the
Yeah,
final.
1.3 down to 1.3 now. Seshan's gap to Brian is down to 1.3. While
And if
the
he
race
does, and
leader
if he
is
does,
still Matthew.
and if Brian does not lose that penalty, Seshan is going to be third.
That's right. So Brian has to loosen
3
up.
cars
We are on
here.
the penultimate lap here.
Let's watch this. 3 cars. Whoa!
That is Lee, Aditya, and Connor Healy.
Brilliant driving.
Are they all in Supras? No, 2 Supras and a Porsche.
There's an Australian and an Indian. It's like having the cricket World Cup.
It's like the cricket World Cup match. Yes.
They're trying very hard there. This is a long right-hander.
That's an India and Australia battle going on here at Suzuka on this day, 27th November, Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup 2022, the final race, esport race for the season, and drivers are absolutely enjoying it to the best of the best. Brian Pereira on P3 in his Porsche representing Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, Niroshan, if I may ask, why cannot we see the Sri Lankan flag at the end of the Sri Lankan drivers?
That's something the game. Has
That's how the game works.
That's how the game works.
So Sri Lanka is not still considered as a
No,
sporting nation
it's
of the game?
the game doesn't recognize a whole load of countries.
Okay, so there are a limited number of countries as the game.
But you know, Brian Pereira is actually sitting in Australia at the moment and driving.
Oh, that's where he's sporting the Australian flag then.
Yeah, if you are Sri Lankan, you have to use some kind of a flag, and Gran Turismo doesn't recognize Sri Lanka as a nation.
Okay.
So therefore, they've got the Sri Lankan drivers have to get.
If I may ask,
a PSN.
Niroshan, what can CMSC do in order to rectify that situation? Anything that CMSC can do through FIA? No.
Nothing.
That's
We're
unfortunate,
working,
but it's good
they're
to see.
working. They're working on it, but
Okay.
it's a long time coming. It will take some time, and not too sure that it can be.
Probably we are a smaller market for PlayStation.
Not only Sri Lanka, got a load of other countries.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. There's a whole load of other countries that are not recognized by Gran Turismo.
Oh, very unfortunate. So the race leader is coming to the spoon curve before he goes to the final backstretch. Goes through nice and clean. However, Iqbal is managing to bring the gap down to less than a second now. It's 0.8 of a second.
Brian Pereira still not losing that penalty there.
Seshan is right on his tail now. Brian Pereira has to coast and fight Seshan on the final lap, and he
Seshan
lets him through.
Brian doesn't fight him there because he knows he's got absolutely no fuel. The car is just on fumes at the moment, and Seshan having a little more fuel there. Seshan can get out of the corner without a problem. Brian has to be really careful because we've got
The race has ended.
with
It is Alan Matthew who takes the checkered flag as the race winner. Iqbal P2 and Seshan finally has clinched the final podium position for Sri Lanka. Congratulations, Seshan Gunasekara, a 12-year-old.
we have to congratulate Matthew on this one. Brilliant drive by Matthew and Iqbal.
Iqbal from Malaysia.
Seshan in third place, Brian in fourth, Lee in fifth,
Aditya Raghav
in
taking P6.
six.
Connor Healy P7. Vedant Karpe P8. Kevin Pereira P9. Alvin Shum P10.
Let's watch Alvin here as he comes along. Whereabouts is he?
The McLaren has not proven
It's a
itself
tough car to
today.
drive. It's a very tough car to drive.
So it's a beautiful race.
It's a mid-engine car. It's a bit of a knife edge there. And Tamil Veerabhadana also from the Ceylon Motorsports Club. is in the 11th place, bringing up the pack. Up to 10, the cars will be on reverse grid, and thanks to that, Alvin is going to be starting.
Alvin will be on P1, Kevin on P2, Vedant on P3 on the second race, and Healy Connor will be taking P4. So, dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, to remind you, this is the end of the first race, and when we start the second race, expect the 10th position to be on a P1 and the race winner to be on P10. First to 10 finishers will be taking the second race on reverse grid.
We'll be back with you, ladies and gentlemen, in approximately 20 minutes. Until such time, stay tuned, have a cup of coffee, and be back with us.
1934, Phil Falk sets a record at the first Mahagastora hill climb. 1936, Mrs. Gordon Graham, the first female racer to compete in her Austin 65. 1959, Mrs. Monica Collier enters the racing circuit. And now it's the age of digital motorsports. The oldest motorsports club in Sri Lanka with a glorious heritage of 87 years and attuned to shifting times keeps rubber burning on tarmac, dust spooling on dirt, and quarter miles conquered. Ceylon Motorsports Club, the iconoclast ahead of its time. (1934), Phil Falk sets a record at the first 1934, Phil Falk sets a record at the first Mahagastora hill climb. 1936, Mrs. Gordon Graham, the first female racer to compete in her Austin 65. 1959, Mrs. Monica Collier enters the racing circuit. And now it's the age of digital motorsports. The oldest motorsports club in Sri Lanka with a glorious heritage of 87 years and attuned to shifting times keeps rubber burning on tarmac, dust spooling on dirt, and quarter miles conquered. Ceylon Motorsports Club, the iconoclast ahead of its time. 1934, Phil Falk sets a record at the first Mahagastora hill climb. 1936, Mrs. Gordon Graham, the first female racer to compete in her Austin 65. 1959, Mrs. Monica Collier enters the racing circuit. And now it's the age of digital motorsports. The oldest motorsports club in Sri Lanka with a glorious heritage of 87 years and attuned to shifting times keeps rubber burning on tarmac, dust spooling on dirt, and quarter miles conquered. Ceylon Motorsports Club, the iconoclast ahead of its time. 1934, Phil Falk sets a record at the first Mahagastora hill climb. 1936, Mrs. Gordon Graham, the first female racer to compete in her Austin 65. 1959, Mrs. Monica Collier enters the racing circuit. And now it's the age of digital motorsports. The oldest motorsports club in Sri Lanka with a glorious heritage of 87 years and attuned to shifting times keeps rubber burning on tarmac, dust spooling on dirt, and quarter miles conquered. Ceylon Motorsports Club, the iconoclast ahead of its time.
Welcome back to race 2 of Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup. The final race happening for year 2022. We have Alvin Chung on P1 as a result of the reverse grid. That is the race start, and Alvin takes off and closely followed in by Super Vedu, that's Vedant Karpe. Alvin goes into the first corner, still holding up to his leadership, and here comes Iqbal. Iqbal attacks on the outside of Alvin and has managed to move into P2, currently falls back to P3, and that will be Kevin Pereira charging, and Iqbal moves through, and that is a fantastic move right on the inside and manages to keep it stick around the outside of the corner, and Iqbal is through. The Malaysian driver showing his full colours today, and a fantastic and a brilliant move, and Vedant is having a bit of a moment there. The mid-pack and goes off track. Vedant Karpe is back to P9, and Alvin Chung was taken over by Iqbal and now by Kevin Pereira, and Chung manages to get back at P2. This is a brilliant battle happening, and Niroshan is back. Niroshan.
I missed the start, Rukshan, but brilliant. Boys are on the money. All these guys up and down the grid order, they're trying very hard. 3 cars abreast. I mean, there's quite a bit of argy-bargy happening here, but then that's part
But
of
it is a brilliant fight, I will tell you. We have Lee Kin Long also fighting in the pack.
But the amazing thing is that Iqbal, who started 9th, is now leading the pack again.
Oh, there's a bit of a nudge there from Alvin
That's
Chung.
okay. Running a little wide there. Car is quite a handful to keep on track.
Look at that. Matthew Valen has found no space whatsoever.
Amazing, Rukshan, how
Matthew actually did not get a great start,
Is
one
it?
thing, and the other thing is he actually got held up in that wolf pack. That's what happened to Matthew. Iqbal has been very smart. He took the maximum width of the track and he reached right on the inside.
Went all the way around them or on the inside?
No, he attacked on the outside but couldn't make it stick, and then he attacked onto the right-hander on the inside and then managed to take it and make it work around the outside and take the lead.
We've got ancient pleb Aditya, who's hassling Shashan at the moment, and right up that we've got Lee, who is on the tail of Konzi. Oh, that's amazing run there as well.
Look at that Niroshan now. Brian Pereira has moved up to P2, and Healy Connor, Connor Healy, I beg your pardon, Connor Healy, who did not have the contention in the previous race, have now taken P3, just 4 seconds down to the race leader. Iqbal has managed to pull up fantastic gap.
I love when these cars work in a gaggle here, but in the process, Iqbal
Look at
has
Iqbal.
pulled-
He has pulled 3.5 seconds to the P2 point of placeholder. Brian
getting
Pereira.
the fastest time for the day, fastest time for this so far on this circuit as well in race 2. But we've got
Iqbal can do 4 seconds slower than that. 4 seconds faster. Because this is 2 minutes 2 seconds, whereas his fastest lap time recorded in the previous lap, previous race was 1:58.
it will drop. This is just the first lap. It's always first lap is always slow, but it's a great bit of driving here.
Look at that, Connor Healy currently holding on to his dear P3.
And Lee is trying his darnest there to get past Connor there.
Lee Kin
On
is
the inside.
attacking on the inside to
Yeah.
Lee, and he would keep that position.
Yeah,
Lee Kin
brilliant.
Long has
And
managed to pull a beautiful.
Seshan. Whoa!
Oh, that was 3 cars taking P3
That-
holder. Connor Healy, unfortunately losing into 3 cars. Now he's down to P6.
But see who's come up the order. There's
Lee Kin Long,
Number
Aditya
6,
Raghav,
Matthew.
and Matthew has finally found some space to break that the curse of the mid pack, and he's advancing on the outside.
3 cars abreast there.
Oh,
Matthew has a look down on Seshan's inside, says no, not this one this time. Seshan is not going to get hassled by Matthew, but this is going to be an interesting battle because Matthew is an astute driver, lots of talent. We saw him win the first race.
look at that erosion. Iqbal has straight gone into 158 on the second lap itself.
I told you.
Matthew Healy, the
Okay.
man to watch.
I'm telling you, watch Lee.
Lee Kin Long, currently on P3. The man from Hong Kong is holding on to P3 here.
I'm telling you,
his Supra, attacking, wanting to attack Brian Pereira, who's currently keeping P2 for himself. Iqbal is never to be seen in this pack. Nevertheless, we will see a beautiful battle brewing up between Brian, between Lee, and Sishan, and then Matthew. Connor Healy has been very unfortunate. He was attacked by the first attacker and he let the other two through in the process of defending. The cars are consuming quite a lot of gas. 1/4 of a tank is already consumed. We are still into the third lap. So as you quite rightly say, lap 6 to lap 8 will be our pit window. We will see who aces the pit strategy this time. Currently Iqbal leading from Brian leading from Lee Kin Long, and from, oh look at that, Matthew was momentarily holding to P4 and Sishan has managed to snatch that back from Matthew. Matthew is down to P5, Sishan on P4, Lee Kin Long on P3, Brian P2, Iqbal is leading the race. We are on to the 4th lap of this 14th lap race, and we are just 2 to 3 laps away from the pit window, and we will see how these people would ace on the pit stop. There goes Matthew right on the buffer, bumper to bumper racing and cornering, beautiful handling. I love this Alpha Niroshan because as we quite rightly discussed at the start, this short wheelbase hero is managing to dance on the track just as it's on rails.
He's a brilliant driver. I mean, he is a brilliant driver. But I mean, Seshan is also a very seasoned campaigner here. He's not going to let Matthew have it easy. Matthew will have to really drive the socks off his Alpha to get past that Porsche. The Porsche is super easy to get around these corners.
I actually have managed to get a bit of bearing on Matthew after watching his race 1. He is a long racer. He does not fight it in the first 2-3 laps. His race ends as he takes the checkered flag.
Yeah.
That is the beautiful thing about Matthew Healy here.
But then motorsport is all about the last corner, last lap. You're not going to win a race in the first corner in this first.
That is true. That's what Ron Silva told me when I was racing the formulas.
Oh, brilliant. Watch this. Tries the undercut. Whoa, nicely done there.
Nicely
Matthew, beautifully done. He lined Seshan up. Seshan defended on the right side. He took the
I think Seshan messed it up more than Matthew did it right. Seshan actually gave it on the platter. He lost a little bit of grip around that corner.
Look at the Porsche. Look at the Porsche's acceleration.
Porsche can actually fight back and start attacking immediately after he was taken over by
and the other. Alpha. And we have the second Australian driver sandwiching Seshan there. Connor Healy as well in the party now. Now let's say this will be interesting.
That's a very interesting battle.
Can Seshan get the slip?
Now, as we can see, Seshan has two chances on this track.
Matthew going on.
Oh, he moves on the outside. Quite an aggressive move. But as a result, he would create a bit of gap to...
but I must say, Matthew is a brilliant driver. Brought the car all the way to the right side where it should have been. He made sure that Seshan couldn't go down the inside of him. Got it beautifully done. Amazing drive by all these guys.
Perfect defensive maneuver there by Matthew, the Ranger Oz, all the way fighting from Australia, currently holding on to P4, and Seshan moving in on Matthew Healy in his Porsche. Matthew is driving an Alpha rear-wheel drive GR3 spec and manages to pull a little bit more gap, half a second now, and Seshan is holding on to Matthew's tail, and in about 1/3 of track there after the spoon corner, the spoon curve, we would see as to how Ishan plans to take him over on the backstretch. While we are so fixated about this duo, can we go back to the that would be Lee Kin Long, the man to watch, as Niroshan quite rightly predicted, because he seems to be keeping quite a distance to Brian Pereira, who's on P2, and also managed to create a lovely gap to Matthew Healy as well.
Rukshan, 1, 2 and 3 are now in a rhythm.
They are in a rhythm. They are keeping the same gap.
Yep.
And
They are not-
Iqbal
they-
seems unbeatable at this point.
No,
we
they are
cannot
not-
predict
they are-
until we make a pit stop.
They're not going to fight. Look at them. They've got half a tank of fuel. They're going to run a long one on this.
So probably, do you see these drivers pitting beyond lap 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're gonna
So
go-
that's the saying. That's the reading of Nirosh and Pereira coming to you.
See, the catch is this. It's not going to be the fuel that's going to be the decider. It's going to be the tires.
Tires.
is
That's going to go
the decider.
away
Yeah.
before the fuel is gone.
Yeah. That's why. So they're going to run this long. I would say 1, 2, and 3 are going to come in only on lap 8, and they will underfuel, the short fuel their cars,
And then have a fight.
short of pit stop, and then bullet out.
And a quick
And-
run to the checkered
Yeah,
flag.
and this is happening purely because you've got like Seshan, who's gone through more than half tank of fuel, right?
That is true. Yes.
And you've
so
got-
he's actually giving it all he can.
He's now got to fight to catch up, whereas the top 3 are actually controlling the pace of the race.
That's right. That
So
is
they
right.
they will have the opportunity to figure when are they going to pit.
So can we just look at the back order to see where they are fighting? So that's the black Supra of Aditya Raghav, joined in by Connor Healy. He's now down to P7. He was previously P3, down to P6 in one go, and now down to P7. Aditya Raghav is giving quite a fight to the yellow Supra in his black stallion Supra today.
So see the guys at the back of
Oh,
the back.
look at Vedant. Vedant is having quite a time today. Vedant was fighting quite aggressively in the first race. Now he's doing a lonely battle.
Yeah, because his tires have also seen a better light of day. His fuel is pretty decent, but the tires are the ones that go away from you. That's where the problem is. Samindra, Alex, Alvin,
Oh, look at,
Alvin is having a bit of a
Alvin
low race.
Chung, who started on P1
But you look,
as a result of the reverse grid.
I have a feeling that Alvin is going to go an extremely long race.
His
because
tires-
He's running a set of mediums.
His tires are as good as new. The
Yeah,
tire
because
wear out
he's-
is not that
Yeah,
bad.
but he's running a set of medium tires.
Okay, reading the fuel. Now we are on to the lap, the pit window. We are on lap 6.
He can
When
run
do you reckon
9.
Alvin
9.
would decide to come into pits?
Lap 9.
Lap 9. So that is the call by
See-
Hiroshan.
see,
Lap 9 for
Seshan-
Alvin. Oh, we already have
3 in the pits.
people lapping. Going for the pit stops. The race leader is still on track.
Yeah, he's going to do an 8. As I told you, he's going to do that
And
on
we
the
have
8th lap.
Matthew Allen, Vedant, and Seshan. All 3 of them are in the pit.
Trust me. Iqbal might run up to lap 9 if he likes to. It will all depend.
He has all the fuel to do that.
No, but see, Rukshan, his lap has dropped consistently. He's dropping a second.
He's
lap.
dropping. He's actually preserving the tires, costing to preserve on fuel,
Yes,
and he
but
needs
Lee-
to get a lighter attack into the
Yeah,
after.
but Lee has got him up to 5 seconds now. Lee is on 5 seconds, but look at the amount of fuel that Iqbal has.
Lee is on P2 because he did not stop.
No, but look at the amount of fuel that he's burnt in the process. So that strategy of Iqbal, he's a brilliant driver. He's conserving his fuel and his tires.
I think Lee's tires are almost gone. Like it's down to 40-45%
See,
life.
Also, when you're at the front, your tire wear is very much less.
Because you get cool air and you're not in anybody's dirty air.
Plus
One
you're,
thing.
you're not fighting anybody.
You are not fighting, and you are basically controlling the pace of the entire race. So
Exactly. So
you have the choice to make all the good choices there.
This is-
There goes Aditya Raghav. He is now up to P3. Has he pitted? No.
Nope.
He's down to his final quarter of a tank of fuel and
Connor-
50% down on his
Connor
tires.
Healy is also in a very, very strong position.
But look at Connor Healy's fuel.
Yep.
He still has more than
And
quarter of a tank.
I'm telling you, he's not going to come into the pits on this lap even. Because he's consistently lapping at the same lap times that he's been lapping right through.
So then I presume
he's
that
coming in.
he would be.
So our top-
he's pitting.
Our
And
top
with a
3.
more than quarter tank of fuel.
Okay. This
he
is going
decided
to
to
be,
pit.
This is going to be interesting.
The race leaders. Race leader is in pits, Iqbal, and with him Connor Healy, and with them Brian Pereira, Aditya Raghav, and Lee Kin Long. All are in pits now. And let us see. There goes the race leader, Iqbal.
Still leading.
Still leading,
Still
manages
leading.
to join well ahead of Brian Pereira. That is a fantastic, brilliant drive and a brilliant strategy perfect timing by Iqbal, the driver all the way from Malaysia, driving the Corvette. We were talking about the Corvette being a bulkier car, bigger wheelbase, and a heavier car, but it appears to be. This is the first empty one, and it appears to be Iqbal has mastered the art of driving this Corvette, and that is something for other drivers to learn. And Brian Pereira is currently on P2. 1.5 seconds away from Iqbal. Iqbal has driven a fantastically brilliant race today, Niroshan.
Great stuff, but end of the day, see, look at where Matthew is. He's only
Matthew is up to P3,
and he's only a second and a bit away from
the P2 hole. Yes, yes.
And
so technically, he's away 3.5 seconds from the race leader.
Also,
well within the attacking time.
Rukshan, he is this lap that he was doing now. He was 3/10 quicker in the first sector.
3/10 quicker in the first sector. So basically, he will be catching 1 second a lap if he manages to keep that pace going through the other 2 sectors as well.
I don't know about 1 second a lap, but at least he's quick.
He's quicker.
He's catching
Brian Pereira. The gap is down to 1.5 now, 1.6. And the race lead Iqbal compared to where the Matthew Healy is the biggest contender for Iqbal is Matthew and Brian at the moment.
These two are battling it all the way.
Seshan and Lee Long. That is a brilliant race. Lee chooses to go around the outside, manages to get back on the inside. Wow, that is a lovely move. But look at Seshan, a 12-year-old driver from Sri Lanka. Races
Lee keeps the car.
He loses.
Lee kept the car in the perfect spot. Seshan on the inside. They're good, very good drivers, leaving room for each other.
Oh, look at that. Seshan comes back on Lee on the main stretch now. Can he make it work?
Nah.
He's back into the slipstream of Lee. Can he outbrake?
He can't.
No way. Lee manages to.
But you have to give credit. These are healthy competition. They're leaving room for each other.
Beautiful competition between Healy Connor from Australia and Seshan
1.2
from Sri Lanka.
1.2, 1.3 now. 1.2 to 1.3. Come on, Australia. You got to push this one, boy. You can do it. And he's got the fastest lap as well at the moment, 152.223.
158.223.
So 158.
So that is the fastest overall compared to race 1 and race 2. So Matthew is doing something better this time around.
And he's going to get the extra 2 points if he keeps this up for the fastest lap as well. And today's winner is actually the driver with the most amount of points overall. So race 1 and race 2 matter on performance on both. So let's see what exactly they're going to do.
So how much points did the race winner get? 10 points?
25.
25.
20 points.
20 points. The second place? Second place 18. That is where the trick is.
Yeah.
So one can finish the first race in second place and come back and win the first race, the second race, and still if he manages to record fastest lap times in either of the two races, he still keeps it ahead of everybody else.
Mathematically, you're giving me a headache.
Alright, so P2 gets 18, P1 gets 20.
Yeah.
So that is 2 laps adrift.
I'm not too sure who got the fastest lap in the first race.
Oh, that will be Iqbal.
Iqbal. Matthew.
Matthew finished P1 with the fastest lap.
Exactly.
So then he's already leading with a good 22 points.
Yeah.
So Matthew only needs to finish this race on P2
in second, and
provided
he gets the
provided Iqbal does not
get the
fastest lap, even though Iqbal wins.
Okay.
That is where the fight comes.
Now you've played with my mind a bit too much. Let's watch these guys drive. 1.1 here. 1.1. That's a brilliant run. And Seshan still fighting with Lee. This is a brilliant race, I must say. All up and down the order. You've got all these guys who are fighting. Another one here. Connor Healy.
That's Connor Healy on P6.
With Aditya Raghav.
Aditya Raghav is managing to give him quite an attack right there with a half a second of a gap.
Brilliant driving, I must say. These guys, and the most important thing is it's healthy competition. There's no incidents or little incidents. I think Sam is having a look at some incidents on the other side. He's been given.
Nirojan, let's go to the race leader, because with the race leader there's that's the fight that is there. P2 and P3 race leader is up and away,
He's
but we
up and
still
away.
have the fight between P2 and P3. And Matthew is driving an absolutely gorgeous race here. He's keeping in its 158.
It's breathtaking. I'm lost for words to see.
And he has Brian Pereira on his sides.
Yeah, but seeing is one thing, but moving and overtaking is a totally different ballgame.
That is true. And I'm sure he is going to plan his attack towards the 11th lap, if I'm not mistaken. We are currently on the 10th lap, ladies and gentlemen. You are witnessing a race happening virtually right here at Suzuka Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup regional race 2022, and this will be your final race before we all get into the Christmas mood. Niroshan.
Yep. This is like a seesaw. It's going up and down. The timing's not really playing too much into each other's hands. There's a 1 second, a smidgen up and a smidgen down, but there's no real impression being created by one or the other in 2 and 3. So I'm wondering whether there will be a place change, and if there is no place change, Iqbal walks away with this one.
I want to see whether any of the top runners have picked up any penalty points. Looks not.
No, they're now driving clean. But Rukshan, there's a boy called Aslan.
Oh, look at that. Leakin is now being challenged by Sishan.
Yeah. So coming back, in Malaysia, there's a boy called Aslan. Akib Aslan, right? And he used to race in e-sport, only in e-sport during COVID. And now last year he moved from e-sport to racing.
The real world
racing. And I watched him in Sepang in Malaysia, and he won the rookie race.
Wow.
Race 1 from pole, race 2 with a reverse grid, and he was all the way down to 8 or 9, and he came all the way up and won in the real world. Amazing. And last weekend he won with his teammate the Sepang 1000 kilometer race.
Wow.
Right? And that's a true testament of it being drivers moving from e-sport to the real world. As we see,
so they are learning their basics
in e-sport. Lots
and
that is
look at Sishan. Look at Sishan. He's currently on P5. He's onto the bumper. Tries to go around the outside. If I was Sishan, I would attack on the inside because it was too late to switch back to inside Sishan. Unfortunate there. He could have given a little bit of a dummy to Lee Kin as if he was going to attack on the outside and dived on the inside. Now we will wait
Sishan using
for him to come around.
His Fanatec steering wheel to the max, I guess.
We can wait for him to come down. Now this is going into the first corner. Sishan can actually give it absolute pace late on the braking, but he does not choose to do so. He's about 0.3 of a second. Oh, that's it.
See, again, these two guys are not really.
So Matthew has brought his time down to a second compared to Brian, who's running at P2 now. We are running with Ranger Osk, Matthew Healy, all the way from Australia. The man who won the first race is now on. Sorry, Matthew Allen. I beg your pardon, I actually mixed up the two names with Connor Healy. Matthew Allen is currently on P3. The man who won the first race is now in contention on P3. We are riding with Lee Kin Long all the way from Hong Kong.
So now you see the cars.
A little bit of oversteering there.
Yeah, because it's coming to that point where the window of the tires is slowly fading.
Slowly fading, but still the tires seems to be holding on. The rear seems to be holding on pretty well.
Yeah,
with maybe around a 20-25% tire wear, whereas the fronts are super sharp.
See, look at Sashan's tires, because he's following Lee. His tires are going away from him much faster, and that's giving Aditya a chance to catch them. So if Aditya has
here is Aditya all the way from India, the man behind the wheel of a black, beautiful Toyota Supra.
His tires are in perfect condition.
Of course, look at all four tires. It's like almost identical when it comes to tire wear, and he has more than quarter of a tank.
The Porsche is losing its tires in the back, and therefore Sashan can't throttle out of the corner as fast as he would like to.
That is right.
Aditya
Raghav!
What happened?
He lost it with all the good tires that he had. Aditya Raghav was unfortunate to lose it out of that corner before he went into the Cashew triangle. Very unfortunate situation.
Absolute commentator's curse. On that
Yeah,
one.
we were just going about his tires being super good, and the man lost it, and another
Lee,
Supra goes out.
I told you, Lee's tires went off
Another
as well.
Supra goes out.
So I told you, Rukshan, this is the time that the tires are going to go away from them.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I read it well.
Seshan kept it right there on his tail. The man lost cool. Lee Kin Long would have wanted to come out of the corner a little faster, lost his rear, spun out, and understeered into the grass, and Seshan moved into P4.
That corner, in that first corner, it's a fine line of balancing your brakes to brake into the corner, move the weight to the front, rotate the car into the first corner, and throttle it out without drifting it too wide. It's not
It
easy.
reminds me of the last corner of Katukurunda.
Yeah.
Similar to that, yes. Very difficult corner to negotiate all the way. There you have again. We are here at Suzuka, a sunny, bright Sunday, and the race control is positioned right here in Sri Lanka, and it is sunny here as well. We have our race leader, Iqbal. Iqbal still holding on to his race lead. Brian Pereira. We will now go to Iqbal. Iqbal is leading from Brian with almost 3 seconds gap. Brian is away from Matthew Allen with a 1.5 second. Matthew Allen has Iqbal. Matthew Allen has Brian on sides, but unfortunately it's a little too far. Seshan is now driving a comfortable 4th, quite away from Matthew Allen, 10 seconds away from the P3 holder. And Lee Kin Long, the man who lost it, thanks to his tires and the pressure that he took from Seshan, he is currently on P5, being closely challenged by Connor Healy. Connor Healy back up to contention, currently in P6, have Lee Kin on his sides and goes into the first corner, and let us see who comes out in front at the end of this lap. We are now on to the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. A quick run to the race leader. Race leader is going on the first sector into the second sector. So we will quickly go back to the back markers. We have 11 drivers. That is Alvin Chung on P11. Tramindra Veeramanukulu on P10 with a very distant fight to Vedant. Vedant on P9 with a 3 seconds gap to his countermate from India, Aditya Raghav. Kevin Pereira on P7, Connor Healy on P6, and these drivers now enter into their final lap. All are on the final lap. We have Lee Kin Long on P5 from Hong Kong, Seshan on P4, and there I saw Connor Healy trying to attack Lee Kin. Whether he would manage to come out on top, nobody knows so far. I would rather hope that these drivers go all the way up to the checkered flag. Now we are riding with the race leader. Final moment into the sector 3 on the backstretch, and the race leader goes through into the cashier triangle and will take probably the checkered flag as the finisher, the first place. Here we have Iqbal from Malaysia winning the second race, but without the fastest lap. We have Brian Pereira taking P2. Matthew takes P3 with the fastest lap. This is what we have been talking about. Matthew won the first race with the fastest lap, and then here we have Connor Healy taking the checkered flag. Kevin Pereira comes in, still in the fight with Aditya Raghav. Raghav lost it at the final moment through the cashier triangle onto the final corner. Now onto the taking checkered flag. We have Vedant all the way from India taking the checkered flag right after his countermate. And we have Thamindra Veeramanukulu from Sri Lanka still negotiating the spoon curve, and therefore we will go for the race finishers. The leader Iqbal coasting it back with a very impressive race win. We will calculate the points to see who has taken the overall win today. Niroshan, that was a fantastic race in today.
Amazing race, Rukshan. You were so animated anymore to even pitch in. But a brilliant race by all the drivers. Big thank you to all the officials who organized this event, as well as the ASNs who did send the drivers in. This is the final round of eSport in Asia for the FIA working group organization. And we thank each and every one of you for watching this event. And we hope that you will be back with us next year when we have more exciting races. All the best, stay safe, and a Merry Christmas.
That marks Asia Pacific Esport GT Cup final race for the season. Have a blessed day, have a pleasant Sunday, and Merry Christmas to all until we see you back in 2023. Thank you very much.